Right behind me is Life Choices Resource Center, which is located right across from George Mason University. I'm Priscilla Munnelly, and today I'm going to interview Holly Freibarger, who is the coordinator, and we're going to talk about how Life Choices can be a life-changing experience for Mason clients.
I initially came to Life Choices as a volunteer because I realized I could really relate to the students we saw and their experiences they were having in their college years. That was a time in my life where I made a lot of reckless decisions in relationships, and I experienced a lot of hurt in those situations. I got really excited during counselor training because I realized being here I can share my story with people one-on-one and help them think through the long-term consequences of their actions and to let them know that God cares about them and He can help them meet their needs.
So why does your program offer free and confidential
We
services?
care about our clients, and we want them to be able to get the help they need without finances being an issue. And it's confidential because they're sharing really personal information. We want to respect their privacy. They're talking about relationships, sexual habits, fears, struggles. Sometimes their stories are really difficult, date rape situations or abuse. So the trust that they give us is really important, and we want to be a safe place where we practice confidentiality.
So how can you help someone through a crisis if someone were to walk in here and they really wanted
I
help?
want my clients to know that any option is going to have a consequence. So that's part of why we don't refer or recommend abortion here. We do want our clients to be able to just think about what they can handle emotionally, and we find that to be a very emotional decision for most of our clients. So we want to give them other alternatives and other options so that they can continue their pregnancy.
If someone were to walk in and say, as long as I use contraceptives, I'll be free from harm, how would you respond to that?
Contraceptive use is going to have a failure rate based on different variables. It's really important that she knows that before she just feels safe using a contraceptive. I'd also want to make my clients aware of the risks of STDs. We find a lot of people aren't very familiar with that and how much of a problem it is, especially with college students. The CDC said last year there was 19 million new cases of STDs, and half of those were in people under the age of 25. So those are two big things to talk about. Also discussing emotional and spiritual consequences. Many clients tell us that they feel very bonded to the person they're having sex with, and it can become a distraction in other areas of their life or make it very difficult to leave the sexual relationship. And we know it's unhealthy when you get wounded in that way. It's harder to build those relationships, good relationships, in the future. So I would want people to think about that as well.
Tell me about those models right there, those little babies.
Sure, those are our fetal models, and we use those at times in the counseling session to help women understand what's going on in their body. They represent different stages of the development, and it gives us a chance to just highlight some of these milestones in development.
So how old is this baby right here?
Right. That little guy is 12 weeks, so it's the end of the first trimester. And at that time, all the organs and the limbs for the baby have developed, and they just need time to grow. It's pretty impressive.
So if a client were to walk in and she had an unplanned pregnancy and she's deciding between abortion and not having an abortion, how would you deal with that?
I'd want to counsel her through all of our options. I think oftentimes in this situation people are really scared, and sometimes they tend to make quick decisions out of fear. We want to help them slow down to think through their options. We certainly can talk about the relationship they're in, if it's something where they could pursue getting married and having the stability of another partner to raise their baby. Certainly there is parenting, and we do have a lot of resources that we've researched from the campus and in the community to help students in particular be able to stay in school and be a parent if that's what they would prefer to be doing. Certainly adoption. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about adoption, and it can really be a very positive thing for women when they remember giving life to their baby, and they can get these updates, good updates about what's going on in their child's life as they grow up. And we'll talk with a woman about abortion procedures and risks. We would want them to know what would happen during a procedure so that they're not surprised. It is surgery. They should be well informed about what would happen. But out of all of it, we've seen the most harm emotionally come from abortion, that it can just leave a lot of emptiness in a woman. So we'd really want to help her think through these other options.
So who is your typical client? What's their religious background and their age group?
Do see clients from a lot of different cultural backgrounds and faith backgrounds, but our typical client tends to be a 20 to 24-year-old college student. The majority do come from Mason, but also a lot of Nova students, and they're coming in for a pregnancy test. They're also tend to be single. So that's probably the biggest thing we end up talking about in a counseling session is their relationship. And is it just a sexual relationship? Could it be something more? Would that be desirable? These are really good questions for someone to be thinking through so they can make purposeful choices in the future.
When someone comes in and they find out that it's pretty Christian-based, I guess, how do they usually respond?
Well, we don't discriminate, who we work with based on their faith background. We find that a lot of people do have beliefs or their own spiritual background, and it is important to them, and they do want to bring that into making a decision. But we don't discriminate, and we're open with them, and they're open with us about it.